The first time Ethan Price noticed the dog, he thought it was just another stray passing through the neighbourhood. Ethan lived on the edge of a small farming town called Briar Hollow, where old barns and tool sheds sat behind houses like leftover pieces of a different decade. He rented a modest place with a big backyard that came with one problem. The property had an ancient, half-collapsed wooden shed near the back fence, a thing that leaned slightly to the left like it was tired of standing. The landlord had told him not to bother with it. "It's basically junk," he'd said. "I'll deal with it someday." That shed had been there longer than Ethan had lived anywhere in his adult life. It was the kind of structure you walked past without seeing, until something made you look at it. That something happened on a bright Saturday afternoon in early spring, when Ethan stepped outside with a trash bag and heard a low, insistent whine. Not the playful whine of a dog begging for attention. This was different. Steady, tense, like a warning siren that wouldn't shut off. Ethan turned and saw a medium-sized dog standing in the grass near the shed. The dog was a mixed breed, maybe some shepherd, maybe some hound, with tan fur and a darker muzzle. Its ribs didn't show, but it wasn't well fed either. It looked like it had been outside a while. Its ears were perked forward, its tail low, and its entire body was angled toward the shed door like it was guarding a treasure or defending a grave. "Hey, buddy," Ethan called, keeping his voice calm. "You lost?" The dog didn't look at him. It didn't even flinch. Its eyes stayed locked on the shed. Then it let out another whine, sharper now, and took 2 steps closer to the door. Ethan walked toward it slowly. "You okay? What's in there?" The dog finally glanced at him, and Ethan felt a chill for reasons he couldn't explain. The dog's eyes were intense, not glassy with fear, but focused, like it had a job and Ethan was interrupting. Then the dog turned back to the shed and scratched once at the door. Just one scrape, then it stood perfectly still again. Ethan frowned. He didn't like the shed. He'd never liked it. The door was swollen from moisture, the hinges rusted, and the wood around the lock looked chewed up like an animal had gnawed it at some point. He'd assumed raccoons lived in there, maybe mice, but the dog's behavior didn't match "there's a raccoon." It matched "something is wrong." Ethan pulled his phone out and snapped a picture of the dog, thinking maybe he'd post it to the neighborhood group. Found a dog. Anyone recognize? But as he framed the shot, the dog did something that made Ethan stop. It backed up 2 steps, then lunged forward and rammed its shoulder into the shed door. Hard. The door didn't open, but it shook, and dust puffed from the cracks. The dog didn't bark at Ethan or act aggressive. It barked once at the door itself, like it was yelling at whatever was inside. Ethan's stomach tightened. He walked up to the shed and listened. At first he heard nothing except the wind and distant traffic. Then, faintly, from behind the wood, a sound. Soft. Rhythmic. Not an animal scurrying. A thud. Thud. Like something tapping from the inside. Ethan's throat went dry. "Hello?" he called, and immediately felt stupid, like he'd just spoken to a ghost. The dog whined again, louder, and pawed the bottom of the door where the wood had warped, as if it was trying to point Ethan to the exact spot. Ethan crouched. The air near the bottom crack smelled wrong, stale, sour, like damp fabric and old urine. He stood quickly and stepped back. No way, this is not normal. Ethan turned and hurried into his house, grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, and came back out. The dog had not moved even an inch. It was still planted in front of the shed like it had been nailed to the grass. Ethan shined the flashlight around the shed, checking for any gaps. There was a small dusty window on the side, half covered by a rotting board. He stepped toward it, pushing weeds aside. "Easy," he muttered, more to himself than the dog. When he reached the window, he angled the flashlight beam inside. The light cut through dust and spiderwebs. He saw old gardening tools, a broken rake, a pile of mouldy cardboard boxes, and a toppled shelf. Then he saw something that made his brain refuse to process it at first. A shape behind the boxes. Not a raccoon, not a cat, a small hunched figure. Ethan's breath stopped. It was a dog crate, one of those metal wire crates. It was shoved into the corner, half hidden by junk, and inside it, something moved. Ethan pressed his face closer to the glass, heart hammering. The flashlight beam trembled as his hand shook. It wasn't a dog. It was smaller. A child? No, too small. But it was definitely alive. The dog outside let out a harsh bark and slapped its paws against the shed door like it couldn't take it anymore. Ethan's mind finally clicked into a single clear thought. Call someone. Now. He stumbled backward, fumbling his phone, and dialed 911. His voice sounded far away, like someone else was talking. There's something alive in a shed behind my house. I think it's an animal in a crate. A dog is here freaking out. Please send someone. The operator asked for the address, asked if anyone was inside the shed. I don't know, Ethan admitted, staring at the warped door like it might open on its own. I can't get in. The door's stuck or locked. Do not attempt to enter if you feel unsafe, the operator said. Officers are on the way. Remain at a safe distance. Ethan backed away from the shed, but the dog wouldn't. It stayed planted at the door, whining like it was holding its breath. Within minutes, a police car arrived, then a second. A county animal control truck pulled up behind them, and then, because it was Briar Hollow and everyone knew everyone, Ethan's neighbour Marta Velez appeared at the fence, drawn by the flashing lights. What's going on? Marta called, eyes wide. Ethan swallowed hard. I think there's an animal trapped in my shed. Officer Grant Halverson, a broad-shouldered man with tired eyes, approached Ethan first. You called? Ethan nodded. Yes, that shed. There's something alive in there. I saw movement through the window. Halverson took one look at the dog guarding the door. Whose dog is that? I don't know, Ethan said. It just showed up and wouldn't leave. The animal control officer, Janelle Brooks, stepped closer carefully, hands up to show she wasn't a threat. Hey, sweetheart, she murmured to the dog. You're okay. The dog glanced at her, then turned back to the shed and whined. Urgent. Janelle's expression changed. That dog's trying to tell us something. Halverson motioned to his partner to stand by the side window. He approached the shed door and tested the handle. It didn't move. It's swollen, he muttered. Then he noticed something near the latch, fresh scratches in the wood, and a faint line where the door met the frame, like someone had tried to pry it. Someone's been in here recently, he said quietly. Ethan's skin crawled. Janelle stepped to the side window, and Ethan watched her face as she shined her flashlight inside. Her mouth tightened. There's a crate, she said. Something in it. Halverson's posture stiffened. What kind of something? Janelle hesitated. I can't tell yet. It's small. Halverson nodded once, as if he'd already decided what this meant. He signalled to the other officer. Pry bar, he said. The second officer returned with a tool, and they wedged it between the door and frame. The dog backed up a half step for the first time, but only because it had to. Its eyes were wild, ears forward, body trembling with tension. Halverson pushed the bar. The wood groaned. He pushed again. The door cracked open an inch. A wave of smell hit them immediately. Stale air, urine, damp rot, and something else that made Ethan's stomach turn. The sour bite of neglect. Janelle covered her nose instinctively. Halverson opened the door wider, careful of splinters, and swept his flashlight beam inside. Dust glittered in the light. The dog surged forward, but Janelle caught its collar gently and held it back. Easy, she whispered. Let them open it fully. Halverson stepped inside, flashlight beam sweeping over the junk. Then he froze. Ethan saw it instantly. His shoulders went rigid, like his body had become a wall. What? Ethan asked, voice cracking. What is it? Halverson didn't answer right away. He just stared, then spoke into his radio, voice suddenly hard. We need a vet on standby and another unit. Now. Ethan's heart slammed. Janelle eased forward, eyes fixed on the far corner, and Ethan followed her line of sight. The crate was there, shoved behind boxes and a broken shelf, and inside it was a dog. Not the dog outside, a different dog, smaller, white fur matted yellow and grey, eyes sunken, body curled so tightly it looked like it had tried to disappear into itself. Its paws were scraped raw, as if it had been clawing at the metal bars for days. But that wasn't what made everyone freeze. There was a second shape in the crate, a tiny shape pressed against the dog's belly, a puppy, so small it looked like it could fit in 2 hands. And it wasn't moving. Ethan felt his vision blur. "No!" Janelle's voice went thin. "Oh my God!" The dog outside let out a sound that wasn't a bark. It was a howl, low, broken, furious, like it understood exactly what was happening and had been screaming about it the whole time. Halverson moved fast now, dropping his flashlight beam to the floor as he crouched by the crate. "Janelle," he said, "bolt cutters." Janelle was already pulling tools from her truck, hands shaking with adrenaline. Ethan stood there, unable to step closer because his brain was screaming that he was looking at a crime scene, not a rescue. The shed felt smaller with every breath. Halverson spoke softly to the trapped dog, tone changing from command to compassion. "Hey, girl, hey, we're getting you out." The trapped dog lifted its head slightly, eyes glassy. A low whimper escaped it, like it had forgotten what hope sounded like. Janelle returned with bolt cutters and a thick blanket. She snipped the crate latch quickly and pulled the door open. The dog inside didn't leap out. It didn't even stand. It just stared, trembling, like it couldn't believe the opening was real. Halverson slid the blanket under it carefully and helped lift it out without forcing it to move. Its body was so stiff with fear and weakness that it felt like lifting a frightened statue. Janelle checked the puppy quickly, hands gentle. Her face tightened. "It's gone," she said quietly. Ethan's stomach dropped through the floor. He turned away, swallowing bile. Then something unexpected happened. The dog outside, the one that had refused to leave, pulled against Janelle's grip, not trying to bite or escape, but trying to get closer. Janelle hesitated, then loosened her hold. The outside dog stepped into the shed, slow and cautious, and approached the rescued dog on the blanket. It lowered its head and sniffed. Then it pressed its nose gently against the rescued dog's cheek. The rescued dog made a tiny sound and leaned into the touch, as if it recognized the comfort. Ethan felt a painful lump rise in his throat. "They know each other," he whispered. Janelle nodded, eyes wet. Or they were together at some point. Halverson stood, scanning the shed with his flashlight again, eyes sharp. "This crate didn't just happen," he said. "Someone put them in here and shut the door." Ethan's skin crawled. "But why?" Halverson didn't answer directly. Instead, he pointed to the inside of the shed door. There, hammered into the wood, was a sliding bolt lock, newer than the shed itself, shiny compared to everything else. Ethan stared. That wasn't there before. Halverson's gaze hardened. "Which means someone upgraded this shed for a reason." Janelle looked around, flashlight sweeping over the clutter. "There could be more animals," she said. The dog outside, still in the shed now, lifted its head suddenly and looked toward the back corner behind a stack of boxes, ears forward. It whined again, the same urgent sound as earlier. Ethan's breath caught. "No, there's more." Halverson followed the dog's gaze, stepped over debris, and shoved aside a box. Something rolled out. A metal bowl. Empty, then another, and behind them, half hidden under a tarp, was a second crate. Smaller. Ethan's heart pounded so hard it hurt. Halverson pulled the tarp back. Everyone froze again. Inside the second crate were 2 puppies. Alive, barely. Their eyes were crusted, their bodies trembling, and they were pressed against each other like they were trying to share one heartbeat. Janelle let out a shaky breath. "They're alive, thank God." "They're alive." She scooped them up carefully, wrapping them in her blanket. moving with the gentle speed of someone handling something that could break. The outside dog didn't whine anymore. It stood still, watching, like it was counting each life being carried out. Ethan realized his hands were shaking so badly he couldn't even form a fist. Marta appeared in the shed doorway, eyes huge, one hand over her mouth. "Ethan, what is this?" Ethan couldn't answer, because the shed wasn't just a shed anymore. It was proof that someone had been doing something behind his house, something hidden, deliberate, and cruel. Officer Halverson stepped out, phone already in hand, speaking to dispatch. "Animal cruelty investigation," he said, voice clipped. "We need detectives, and I need a unit to start canvassing nearby properties for cameras." Janelle carried the rescued dog and puppies toward her truck, moving fast but careful. The rescued dog trembled but didn't fight. It watched the outside dog as it went by, and the outside dog followed like a silent escort. Ethan stood in his yard, staring at the open shed door, feeling like the ground under him had shifted permanently. He looked at the outside dog, the one that had refused to leave. "You saved them," Ethan whispered, voice rough. "You knew." The dog looked up at him, eyes intense again, then turned toward the shed one last time as if making sure no one was left behind. Only then did it step away. As the animal control truck doors shut and the police lights continued to flash against the trees, Ethan realized the most terrifying part wasn't what they found in the shed. It was the fact that the shed had been sitting there the whole time, silent, ordinary, and if that dog hadn't shown up, nobody would have opened it. Nobody would have known. And whatever had been happening behind that door might have continued, hidden in plain sight, until it was too late.